Mitchell Robinson is having a historic season when it comes to getting offensive rebounds. And also, we are going to break down some more news on the Mark Jackson situation as it pertains to his getting fired from the New York Knicks, or maybe not. So make sure to tune in for all this. Welcome back to Knicks Digest, guys. My name is Chris, and we're going to jump into things as we always do. So let's get right into things here. First things first, what we are going to talk about is Mitchell Robinson is having an incredible season. Now, first things first, just to very quickly mention it, Mitch's defense is the best it's ever been. The man is getting more steals and blocks per game. He is switching on to perimeter players. He is a five-tool defensive player. He's stealing everything. He'll block a shot if you try him, but no one does anymore because they know what's going to happen. The man is just an incredible defender. He should be one of the front runners for Defensive Player of the Year, but none of this is what he has been best at this season, which is easily his best year in the NBA, I might add. It's the offensive rebounding, guys. Look at these numbers. Mitchell Robinson is averaging over 5.8 offensive rebounds per game. That is more than any player since 2000. In the year 2000, the average offensive rebounds per game were 12.4. That is a whole 1.5 more than it is now, because now it's at 11 this season. And that's more of a jump than you think when it just comes down to offensive rebounds. An extra offensive rebound can win you a game, and the NBA was much different 20 years ago than it was now because Steph Curry came and changed everything there was about basketball. And now mid-range shots don't really exist anymore. So, yeah, rebounding's a little different now. And Mitchell Robinson doesn't care because he is getting more offensive rebounds than any player since Y2K. And that is absolutely insane. I was born in 2001, so this means that the most offensive rebounds per game throughout my lifetime has been Mitchell Robinson this season, which I find very cool. And really, just in general, this has been Mitch's best year in the NBA. If we take a look at his stats, sure, the points numbers are actually the lowest of his career. But the rebounding numbers, he's averaging basically 12 rebounds per game. He's never even hit double digits before. And yeah, his free throw percentage has steadily just gone down, and that's a problem. And his field goal percentage is down, but he's also shooting the ball less. He's not getting the amount of attempts that maybe he should be. And it's also only 11 games in, so we'll see how this goes. But if you just look at the rebounding numbers again, and then really just look at the offensive rebounding numbers, guys, who averages as many offensive rebounds as they do defensive rebounds? That is insane. That is an insane feat. And Mitch has clearly always been good at getting offensive rebounds. When you look, the numbers are always pretty close together. And he's usually getting around half of his rebounds on the offensive end. But now he's getting 12 rebounds per game. That means 6 of them are on the offensive end. It is absolutely insane to watch how Mitchell Robinson has grown throughout his career. And it's just so exciting to see. I'm so happy that Mitch is balling out like this. And especially, I know we did not do a post-game last night, but to just very quickly mention the Knicks-Hawks game from last night. If you just take a look at this, guys, Mitchell Robinson's rebounds against the Atlanta Hawks were 15. The Hawks' 4 big men, Capella, Onyeka Okongwu, and Jalen Johnson, who's really more of a small forward, power forward, but he was playing a lot of power forward last night. They had 14 combined. So Mitch out-rebounded the entirety of the Atlanta Hawks big men, which is, just absolutely insane. And we saw in the playoffs in 2021 when Mitch was not there, Capella was destroying the Knicks. And it makes you think, obviously, this is a much different Mitchell Robinson than there was 2 years ago. But say Mitch was there in 2021. That would have been a completely different series because Capella wouldn't have been catching lobs and getting every single rebound on the floor because Nerlens Noel couldn't handle it. That's just what would have happened. There would have been more games in that series, and maybe the Knicks still would have lost. Probably they would have. The team was not as good as that Atlanta Hawks team. The Hawks went on to almost go to the NBA Finals that year, but obviously the Milwaukee Bucks happened, and they would end up winning the Finals. So the Hawks didn't. But that was a good Hawks team. And the Knicks lost to them. And a huge reason, maybe the biggest reason, is because they didn't have Mitch. I would love to see the Knicks and the Hawks play once again in the playoffs. That rivalry is so fun, especially because the Knicks keep getting the best of the Hawks in recent years. And I would love to see Mitchell Robinson just show Clint Capella, hey, everything you did a few years back on us, that's not happening with me in this paint. You are not doing that. You are not getting rebounds. You are not scoring. You are not catching lobs. Trae Young is not hitting floaters. None of that's happening because Mitchell Robinson is the best center when it comes to either of those teams. He's probably better than basically every team's center that isn't the Denver Nuggets, Miami Heat, or Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, that is Jokic, Adebayo, and Embiid. Those are the three best centers in the NBA, not in that order. I'd put Embiid over Adebayo, obviously. But, those are the top three guys. And sure, Bam's a little lower than the other guys. But we saw Mitch get outplayed by Bam in the playoffs last year. And I kind of think that one of the reasons why Mitch is doing so well now is because he's upset that Bam outplayed him. It is what it is. Mitch is having the best season of his career, and this is going to be so important come playoffs when games become more defensive and more physical. Mitch is going to be there giving hell to everyone on the opposition. And with that, we are going to move into the Mark Jackson side of this. We've had some wild Mark Jackson news over the last 24 to 36 hours. When it became apparent that Mark Jackson will not be calling games for the New York Knicks as we once thought, we made a video actually talking about that Mark Jackson would be the new part-time commentator when Walt Clyde Frazier decided to take some games off. He's almost 80 years old. He's not going to call many games anymore. He's getting ready for retirement. So Clyde's sort of slowly on the way out, but he's still Clyde, and everyone wants him there as much as he can be there. So they figured that Mark Jackson would fill in on a lot of road games. However, now it is Wally Szczerbiak. Wally's been great for the Knicks. He's been working for MSG for a while now. And he's been a great commentator. But he is not the reason why Mark Jackson is no longer working with the New York Knicks. The reason is because of a few people here. Leon Rose, the Knicks president. Darren Erman, a Knicks assistant coach who has been here since 2020. And the other is Mark Jackson himself, because Mark Jackson is an interesting person, we'll say. Let's just take a look at some of this stuff. For instance, when it was reported that Mark Jackson did not get the job, Mark did not like that, and he essentially went out and put this statement out. More than a week ago, I turned down the job due to the fact that it wasn't the ideal conditions and it wasn't the ideal time for me. You never know what the future holds. They say once a Knick, always a Knick. I bleed a side of me blue and orange. I dreamt of playing for the Knicks. I dreamt of calling games for the Knicks. It would have been a dream accomplished, but it didn't work out. I give the reporter credit. 4 calls yesterday from reporters trying to get a quote from me. I did not respond because I don't play that game. I let it alone thinking that it'll die and no one will know what happened. But over a week ago, I turned the job down. Who knows what's true? Mark Jackson clearly trying to spin this in his direction, which is not surprising. That's what most people would do in this situation. But there's wavering reports of this. This is a very strange situation that we've gotten ourselves into on this front. And if you look here, essentially the initial report was that Mark Jackson will not be calling games on MSG Network because Knicks management, led by Leon Rose, put a kibosh on that, in part due to an old quarrel with Jackson and an assistant coach. And then a later tweet says, in 2014, Darren Erman, a current Knicks assistant, was fired by Jackson, then Golden State's head coach, with Erman an assistant on the staff. An ESPN report shortly after said that Erman had taped Jackson and players unbeknownst to them. So essentially what happened, and we're going to tie all of this together in a little bit, but what happened is Darren Erman was filming or recording conversations with coaches and players, and no one knew about it, so Mark Jackson fired him. As of right now, you take Mark Jackson's side. And Darren Erman, who has been the Knicks assistant coach for a few years now, do you guys remember what happened with Obi Toppin and Tom Thibodeau last playoffs? There was that audio that got leaked where Tibbs and Obi got into it, and you could hear Obi yelling a lot of profanity saying, "Tibbs, what's wrong with you?" because Obi wasn't playing. Who filmed that? Nobody knows. Who is an assistant coach on the New York Knicks who has worked with Tom Thibodeau for a long time? Darren Erman. I'm not saying Darren Erman did that. I'm not saying that he's the one who did that. But there is a good argument to believe that maybe the guy who leaked that audio might have been the guy who had filmed other players and recorded other coaches without their knowledge. I don't know. That would make sense to me. But that's not even all the news that we have on this. This story just keeps going. So Jackson and Erman previously collaborated during the former's term as head coach of the Golden State Warriors. As we know, Erman was fired from Golden State with a violation of a company policy. And then just to go deeper into it, it stated that Erman was recording meetings and conversations with coaches and players without their knowledge or consent. Jackson himself was bid farewell from the Warriors shortly after that season ended and resumed his duties with ESPN/ABC. So yeah, as we know, Erman clearly filmed people. Who knows if he still does that with the Knicks? I'm going to hope that he doesn't. And hopefully it wasn't him who did the whole Obi thing and leaked that audio, because that was very unprofessional, and that is not what an assistant coach should be doing. However, we also know another side to this, and that is that Mark Jackson is an interesting human being. First of all, he's made some remarks in the past that are just not tasteful at all. He's very, very religious, and basically has made a ton of not tasteful remarks to a large group of people out there in the world. That's all I'm really going to say about that. This is not a political channel. We're not going to get into any of that stuff. You don't want to hear it from some random dude from New York. Here is what we saw. Steve Kerr overhauled a team culture that had grown poisonous for well-documented reasons under Jackson and his assistants. It's his zeal to motivate players. Jackson fostered resentment among them and towards the front office. He fired 2 assistants, requested Jerry West stay away from practices, and asked a younger front office official to stop rebounding for players, sources have said. That last thing especially makes 0 sense. I don't know why anyone would do that. I don't know why Jackson would care. And when Festus Ezeli got injured last season means 2013-2014, just to be clear, this is a 8-year-old report from Zach Lowe. Jackson and his staff told the healthy players that Ezeli was cheering against them so that he would look good, according to several team sources. Players confronted Ezeli in a meeting, and he wept at that accusation, which he denied. So thanks, Mark Jackson, for making Festus Ezeli cry. I don't know what he did to you, but that is an idiotic thing to do to your team. I don't know why you would do that. I don't know why you would try to turn your players against each other when they're a team. That is not how good teamwork works. I guarantee that one person on that team was never going to stop being fully skeptical of if Festus Ezeli was actually rooting against them or not. Maybe more. Who knows? I don't know. I think it's hard to tell now, because now you have one person saying one thing and Mark Jackson saying the other, and now it's coming out that no, this didn't happen. So you believe Festus Ezeli, and especially knowing that Mark Jackson is a strange human being who, when Steph Curry had ankle injuries, Jackson took to a church and rubbed anointed oils on Steph's ankle, you would think, okay, Mark Jackson's an interesting human being. He probably made this up. Festus Ezeli, we've never heard anything bad about him. He's widely known to be a very good person, so probably Mark Jackson's in the wrong here, which makes you think, is this because of Darren Erman that this happened with the Knicks? Or is it because that Mark Jackson always gets in his own way, which is exactly why he has not been a professional NBA head coach since 2014. You don't turn players against each other. You just don't do that. And maybe Darren Erman got this idea from Mark Jackson. Maybe Darren Erman's a little more old-fashioned. Or maybe Darren Erman didn't record the Obi thing at all, and it was just a coincidence that Erman was there while Obi Toppin was yelling at Tibbs, and someone else leaked it. To wrap this up, I'll give you my thoughts. This is a very long video about this whole situation. Sorry, guys. I've been on multiple tangents. But essentially, to wrap this up, I'm just going to give you guys my thoughts. What I think happened is Darren Erman certainly recorded that audio. I'm going to fully believe that. If you did it once, you're probably going to do it again. There's no rumors of anyone else ever doing it. I mean, who else is going to do it? RJ Barrett's like, hey, guys, hey, this will be funny. Here, let me just turn on my recorder so we can all hear this. No. None of the players would do that. The players are very close with each other. Tibbs makes players close chemistry-wise because Tibbs is rough. And he's not rough to the players. He's just rough. He's a hard-nosed coach. And that makes the players close, by all reports. Darren Erman has filmed people before, so I'm going to assume that Darren Erman did it again and that Mark Jackson and him have beef. And it's probably a two-sided beef because Mark Jackson is a strange human being. And Darren Erman does not seem like he's made the best decisions throughout his coaching career. Neither is Mark Jackson. So I'm going to think this is a little bit on each of them. And who knows what's going to happen next. Mark Jackson, once a Knick, always a Knick. Won Rookie of the Year for the Knicks, I do believe. Tremendous player. Led the league in assists as a rookie. And a good announcer, too. I really like his announcing. But it is what it is. And that's all that we have for today, guys. Sorry for making this video literally twice as long as some videos. But the Mark Jackson situation was weird. And plus, we didn't get to do a post-game last night. Dariel and I were not around. So we missed it. Wanted to give a little bit of a game recap to some degree. Talk about Mitchell Robinson. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, guys. Like and subscribe. And I'll catch you on the next one. And remember, go Knicks.